Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the companion video of the previous video where I replaced the burner in an old water heater. And we'll talk about that right after we roll title. Now we got that out of the way. This is it is a standalone, but it is companion in the sense that it's kind of the next logical step to doing the water heater burner replacement. If you didn't watch the first one, I'll try to save you a little bit of time. What happens a lot of times with burners is they only last so long a period of time before they rust out on you. The HVAC unit, the terminal unit that's outside, the package unit I should say, that's outside, is original, and I'm on my third set of burners on that. And that's like a grill. If you think about grills are outside, the rain, the high moisture contents, and that changes over time. They're exposed to a lot of corrosion. They typically corrode up over a period of time. Not instantly, but over a period of time. So many years the burners go out. Third set of burners on the one outside. They're particularly bad on a package unit like that because we have a sealed system. We have tubes, heat tubes, the heat exchangers that go through the unit. The original ones on that unit did in fact get replaced. They were galvanized, had I think an 8-year limit guarantee, and about 10 years I replaced them with a stainless set because what happens, I began to be able to detect some smell of gas burning. And so that's not good. You should never smell it. They're two completely sealed systems. That little fan that kicks on before it lights, that's purging the burner side of it, that is pulls in outside air. And if it happens to be cold and damp and rainy and whatnot, when it purges all the air to make sure that we have at least 4 exchanges of volume in there so that any gas that didn't burn has been diluted and run out because we've brought new fresh air in that didn't have gas in it. It's now too weak, too thin, too lean to want to burn. So there we are. Outside, cold weather, cold damp weather, we've turned the unit on, those burners get hot, and then we're satisfied in the house, so we turn it back off, and then they cool down. And what happens if you got moisture in there and a warm surface? It tends to sweat, and that water that gets on those things, pieces of metals, tend to make them want to rust. Third set outside. When I saw or heard rather, sitting downstairs in the garage, and I hear the water heater. That starts, normal sounding start, ran for a little bit, kicked off. That's probably a maintenance cycle because I'm not taking the shower and nobody else lives with me. I'm not doing clothes, so we're not running hot water in the clothes. We're not running a shower. We're not running the dishwasher. We have nothing that's consuming. It's just a maintenance cycle. A very short period of time went by and we had another. So that told me I'm short cycling for some reason. It's far too close together for it to have cooled down the water in the tank. So it should have at least gone till it got hot enough and kicked off, and it didn't. So there's something unusual. Approached the water heater, pulled off the little cover so I could see the observation portal, the window, and the flame color was UT orange. Nothing is volunteer orange is good, especially when I expect to see some Duke blue or perhaps some Kentucky Wildcat blue, and maybe even on the flame a little bit, maybe even some North Carolina blue, but definitely not a lot of UT orange. So something is not working right. I also observed the flame looking through the port, and it wasn't a nice pattern. I didn't have my individual little blue flames coming out. It just was all orange, and I just assumed age of the water heater, ran the serial number, probably rusted out burner. Let's see if we can get one, put one in, because the tank's not leaking. Special order, because it's just that old. Got it in, didn't want to take it apart to really examine the burner until I had the part in hand. There's no reason to disturb what's in place as it was. I can just turn it off, unplug it, because I have a second water heater on the second floor that heats that whole part of that house with its bathrooms and whatnot. So I can do without while the part comes in. Part comes in. If you watched that first video, it was extremely sooted up, which I had not seen one to that degree. There had to be some sort of reason. So I cleaned the unit up, fixed it. You've watched that video. We got her good and clean, and yet I still went back to check my flame pattern after I got it replaced, and I still had way too much UT orange. So I think to myself, what can make the flame orange? And so I go to the garage door. I have a roll-up door, overhead door, and I also have a personnel door to the outside, 3.0 door. So I open the 3.0 door and my flame blued up and looks nice as I would expect it to do. If I shut the door, got orange again, open it, so that tells me I probably need some more air coming in here. I need a little bit of combustion air coming in here. So let's go look at some code requirements over here on the center panel. Well, this right here that you have before you is the International Fuel Gas Code. This is the big code, the big gas code. All right, now we are residents, so we will do with the International Residential Code. But one of the first things I want to look at is this right here. Protection from vehicle impact damage. Appliances shall not be installed in a location subject to vehicle impact damage except where protected by approved means. In my case, the water heater is on a stand, elevated stand, because it is in an attached garage. In an attached garage, it has to be up on stilts. It's got to be up on the platform. It's on a platform with no catch pan, no drain pan, no emergency pan, because it's not in an area that is likely to have damage if the tank leaks. So no pan is required, and it doesn't have one. The gas water heater sits in the corner behind the stairs, and it's already been approved, so obviously it meets that requirement where protected by an approved means. So we have that made up. Let's slide on down the fuel gas code. Combustion, ventilation, and dilution air. We're going to come down here and look for 30451, this one right here. We have this one or this one that we have to comply with, and that's what the line above it tells us. Let's slide it up. 304.5. Indoor combustion air. The required volume of indoor air shall be determined in accordance with 305.1 or 2, except where the air infiltration rate is known to be less than 0.4 air changes per hour. Okay, that would be your unusually tight situation. If your room is unusually tight, you have to know your air infiltration rate. 304.2 shall be used. The total required volume shall be the sum of the required volume created by the appliance located within the space. Rooms communicating directly with the space in which the appliance are installed through openings not furnished with doors and through combustion air openings sized according to the section 304.3 are considered to be part of the volume. So if you don't have a door, you can use a bigger room if it's just in a small space and opens up to it. We're in a huge garage. So let's look at this 304.5.1 because it says combustion air must meet one of these two, 5.1 or 5.2, known infiltration rate or standard method. We'll use the standard method. Now before we do that, I just want to say this. If you like this content, please go to calldeltosell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you. Thank you. We're in a huge garage. So let's look at this 304.5.1 because it says combustion air must meet one of these two. 5.1 or 5.2, known infiltration rate or standard method. We'll use the standard method. Now before we do that, I just want to say this. Normally speaking, off the top of your head, if I was just not having seen a house or whatever going on, if someone says they got a garage and they got the gas water heater in the garage, it's a 2-car garage, I'm going to bet every time that it's plenty big. May not be, but I want to guess it's plenty big. In fact, some single-car garages are plenty big. Although if you have a ginormous water heater, perhaps bigger than my 50-gallon water heater, and a very teeny single-car garage that may not really qualify as a garage because it's so small and maybe you can't really get a car in there. If the single-car garage is small enough, you might have a problem. But let's look at what that said. Let me pull my calculator up. We want to figure out the volume of the room. All right, so the garage that's in the space that is formed by the garage is 10.5 feet. Let's just call it 10.5 feet tall, floor to ceiling. And it's 22 feet on one wall and about 21 on the other. So we'll do that 21 on the other. And that comes out to, let me hold it up there for you, 4,851. All right, 4,851. Make a note of that, because the next thing we've got to go is we've got to look back at this requirement to see if we comply with 304.5.1 standard method. Says the minimum required air volume shall be 50 cubic feet per 1,000 BTU. So let's do that. We have 38,000 input BTU water heater, so we take 38 times the 50, we come up with 1,900, and I had to get myself off the small screen in the corner to show you that. We'll do that. Pull it up. We got 38 times 50, and it says it's 1,900. So 1,900 is more than twice what's required, or more than twice the volume of the garage is more than twice what we require. So we meet the standard method. Go back and look at it one last time, because I like repeating myself. There's a standard method right there. The minimum 50 per 1,000. We figured the two-car garage volume is more than twice what it needs. But yet when I shut the people door, the personnel door, what did we see? We saw it get a little orange. We opened personnel door, it got blue again. That to me tells me that we could use a little bit more air. Now there's different methods when you look at the code that we'll look at. Now I do want to show you one thing right here before we go. This is the daddy code, the fuel gas code, right? There it is. We're going to go over here to the International Residential Code, and these codes may not be the ones you have in your area. Chapter 24 is the fuel gas code, where the part that is relevant to the fuel gas code, and it says here, the text of this chapter is extracted from the 2021 edition of the International Fuel Gas Code and has been modified where necessary to conform to the scope of application of the International Residential Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings. The section numbers appearing in parentheses after each section are the numbers corresponding to the IFCG. There, in fact, we find our standard method. Do you see that? Do I have enough on there? And what it was telling you at that first part is the G, this is the International Residential Code. The G is telling us that the section 2407, that all of this stuff comes from the gas code, the IFGC. And if we see that number, 304.151, that is the exact direct reference in the fuel gas code where it came from. All right? Because now we're back in the fuel gas code, and where is it? 304.5.1. Back to the IRC, 304.5.1, but in the IRC it's chapter 24, not chapter 3. So we've met that requirement. Well, you don't know it, but I just cut out a bunch of stuff that I was going to talk about. Look, as we look through the code, it just made the video too long, so I'll just try to recap it real quick. If you look into the code and you see the term makeup air, understand that makeup air goes with an exhaust action of some sort, whether it be an exhaust hood over a kitchen hood, like in a commercial kitchen. If we're pulling the grease fumes out, we got to make up the air we're pumping out of the building so that we put some more air in, so we don't glue our doors shut, for one thing. So if you were to have a fuel gas piece of equipment in a room that you also had like an exhaust vent over, like say a cooking stove, you don't have to have one in residential because you're not burning that much gas for that long. But if you did have a vented hood that's taking air out of the building, you have to make up that air. If you had a clothes dryer, whether it's gas or electric, makes no difference. It's still exhausting air directly to the outside. You have to make up air there. And if you had like a fart fan in the bathroom or shower fan, whatever you want to call it, if it's pulling air out and you still had something that was gas in there, you have to account for the makeup air, for what you're taking out of the building. The other thing I was talking about real quickly is a type of vents. If you saw in that picture, I had a PVC plastic pipe on top of the water heater, when normally you'll see a lot of water heaters, if they're a natural convection type, natural vent, they'll have what we call a draft hood. It's just a big funnel over the hole where the gases come up, and then it runs up that type B vent. Type B vent is a metal outside, metal inside. Outside is galvanized, inside is aluminum. UL standard says it's good for 400 degrees rise above ambient. It's a metal pipe because that flue gas that's going up the chimney effect is hotter and it's moving slower, so it tends to heat stuff up. On a fan force type of thing, a power vent that we have in that that heater that I have downstairs, that water heater downstairs. It can be plastic, although plastic goes soft pretty quick. It does that because it's pulling so much air through it that it's really cool. The air that's going through the exhaust is actually very cool. Now, because I need metal vent to go up, and mostly up, although you can come up a foot if you have to change the direction and then go to another and tee into a pipe. There are a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in this. If you're doing B-vent, it has to be with the manufacturer's manufacturer's instructions when you do something like that, but it really relies on the convection, the heat rise for it to work. This is 20 foot inside of that garage, and that's too much horizontal for too little vertical, and so it has to have an air pump to pump it out. Now, if we looked at that picture, that garage, you'll notice that we have a pipe, a sealed system going out for the flue gases after things combust and burn, but we have air coming from the volume, from the space, comes in at the bottom of the water heater. That's a little different situation. I also talked a little bit about furnaces and concentric vents, but we just don't have time to get into all that. All right, let's wrap this up if we can. So what do? We know that we did the 30451 compliant, so our room is big enough, our volume is more than twice what we need according to the code for the general method for that water heater of 38,000 BTUs. Yet when we did that simple experiment, such as we open the personnel door, it got more blue, it looked like it was a better burn. We shut the door back, it looked like it got a little bit more orange. The pattern was still good because it wasn't dirty, wasn't filthy. New burner, we opened that door back, it got bluer. We shut it, got less orange. So that convinced me enough that we don't have enough infiltrating air in that garage. We have two windows, they're modern windows, they seal well, so we're not getting air in that way. We have two doors, the door from the house to the garage and a door from the garage to the outside. Both of those are recently weather stripped a year or so ago, although the outside door, I see a little bit of daylight, so it's got a little bit of leakage there. So what happened? Well, when I put those rollers on from a good while back, about a year back, I also, although I didn't mention the garage door rollers had gotten really bad, I got around to changing those when it started to sound like the door was going to fall off. Delayed maintenance, I'm sorry. So I put the rollers on. I also adjusted that garage door and tightened up because winter was going to be coming eventually. So I apparently choked off enough leakage air that the system depended on, and that's probably why it got so dirty and sooty. So my correction for this was to add some designed infiltration. So what I did is I already had this old door. It's been damaged where I backed into it with a trailer, so it's not perfect to start with. It's old and filthy. It's a little bent at the top where the garage door opener was not installed properly by the original contractor. So I just ordered some special order louvers, two of them, a set of two, $200 basically, because they charged me, because it's custom, $65 a piece for each of the louvers. I got two, but there was a setup charge and then of course the freight on it, so it basically worked out $100 a piece. I put one of them in there. It's large enough after we take off the deduction for the louvers themselves, the metal louvers in that. It's got a little bug screen, lets plenty of air in, and it's just one louver, so that unless the water heater is pulling air out, there's not a lot of air going to be coming into that garage. It's already an uninsulated door. That's how old the door is. So it already gets a little bit chilly, but we're not really pulling in super cold air in the wintertime unless it needs it, and it's not going to pull any more air into it than it needs. So that's how I fixed this particular problem. I don't suggest you do any of this stuff. It's just online content, but I did want to walk you through some of the thought processes of it. So I appreciate you watching. Remember, you don't understand how much this makes a big difference in the algorithms. If people don't watch, they don't push it up in the stumble upons where people come across something. You really have to find them. So if you can, do the click like, subscribe type thing, hit that notification bell so it sees that. Even a thumbs up or a comment makes a big difference to the algorithm. So if this is the type of stuff that you're not running into, I know I'm long-winded, but I'm trying to explain something that might be helpful to you in your situation that of course is non-instruction. So I'm not telling you how to do anything. I'm just showing you what I did and why I did it. And I'm happy to discuss stuff as best I can explain it. I may not have the answers you're looking for, but I'll give you a shot at it. But just, if you will, click like and subscribe makes a big difference.